All right, everyone, welcome back. Get ready for another deep dive into the world of science and tech news this week. It's been a wild ride, folks, from gene editing curing blindness to robots learning to fold laundry and, well, Elon Musk, Elon Musk being Elon Musk. So grab your thinking caps, get ready to be amazed, confused, and maybe a little terrified.
I think what's striking this week is just how quickly things are changing,
Yeah.
right? We're seeing breakthroughs that felt like they were straight out of science fiction just a few years ago. And it really raises a lot of questions about what the future holds. I mean, the utopian possibilities, but also, of course, the potential pitfalls.
Yeah, exactly. Like we're living in a real-life Black Mirror episode right now.
Yeah.
But hopefully, a little less existential dread. So let's start with something genuinely incredible, a potential cure for blindness using gene editing. Doctors in London have successfully treated children with a rare genetic condition. The results are pretty mind-blowing.
It's a remarkable achievement, for sure. And what I find particularly fascinating is just how targeted this treatment is. It addresses a very specific mutation in the SMN1 gene. This gene is crucial for motor neuron survival. So by delivering a functional copy of that gene, they've essentially stopped the progression of the disease, and in doing so, they've restored vision.
Yeah. It's giving hope to so many families out there. In fact, one user, You Smoke Limburger, shared a story about their niece who actually has this condition.
Yeah.
And he said seeing this breakthrough was like a light at the end of a very dark tunnel for them. But of course, the internet being the internet, there were some, let's call them interesting pics in the comment section too.
Yes, the comment section. That ever reliable source of, well, sometimes insightful commentary, but then a lot of times utter bewilderment. What caught your eye?
Well, there was this whole debate about whether this is a cure or a treatment, which on the surface it might seem like semantics until you realize that there's actually a real difference in how ongoing care is handled. One user, Chicago K, had a really great explanation that kind of broke it all down, but then you had people like, Cure for Stupidity claiming it's all a hoax. I mean, come on, people. Let's at least try to be like informed skeptics, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. That distinction between cure and treatment is really crucial, right? I mean, in this case, while the gene editing does stop the disease's progression and it does restore vision, there's still ongoing treatment that's going to be needed to actually maintain those benefits. So for now, it's more accurate to classify it as a treatment,
Yeah.
but the long-term implications, I think, are incredibly promising.
Definitely. And speaking of promising, Hobby Plotter pointed out that research is already underway for other inherited forms of blindness, like Stargardt disease. So while this specific treatment is very targeted, it is opening doors for treating a wider range of conditions in the future. And I think that's really exciting. This could be a game changer for how we approach blindness treatment.
It's a truly exciting time to be following gene editing technology, that's for sure. I mean, the potential to address conditions that were previously thought to be untreatable is immense. But of course, with any powerful tool, right, there are always ethical considerations and potential risks that we have to think about.
Speaking of potential risks, let's move on to something a little less optimistic, shall we? The alarming study about wildfire suppressants. Turns out, the stuff they're dropping from those planes contains toxic heavy metals at levels that would make a supervillain blush, really. And get this, they've been hiding the ingredients as trade secrets. I mean, what could possibly go wrong there?
Well, this is a case, unfortunately, where corporate secrecy potentially put public and environmental health at risk. The study found that the heavy metal levels were thousands of times higher than what is considered safe in drinking water. And these metals, the problem is they can accumulate in the soil, and they can potentially contaminate water sources, which obviously has long-term consequences for ecosystems, but also human health.
It's pretty terrifying, honestly.
Yeah.
But of course, there were those in the comments who were, quick to dismiss these concerns. Like, UFAC GBOF was all, dilution is a thing, bro, arguing that the metals just get dispersed, so it's not a big deal. But I think maybe they missed the memo that heavy metals don't just magically disappear.
Right. Dilution, it doesn't equal safety, especially when we're dealing with persistent pollutants like heavy metals. Even at those lower concentrations, they can have those cumulative effects on ecosystems and human health. It's kind of like saying, sure, there's arsenic in the water, but it's diluted, so bottoms up. Not exactly a comforting thought.
Yeah. We can't just keep kicking the can down the road and just hoping for the best. I mean, we need transparency from these companies, stricter regulations to protect our environment, public health. But hey, at least we're not talking about politics, right?
Oh, wait.
Speaking of turbulent landscapes, the political sphere has been, well, let's just say, living up to its reputation for chaos this week. We saw a news break about a certain former president slashing funding for those science agencies, right?
Right.
Leading to mass firings. And some are calling it a potential brain drain.
It's like we're stuck in some kind of dystopian time loop, seriously.
Haven't we learned our lesson about investing in science and research? I mean, it's like one user, UFan level 411 put it. America's trying to clean coal with a brush while China's building futuristic cities. The irony is almost too painful.
Yeah. And the impact of those cuts, it goes way beyond those budget numbers. It's about expertise, it's about morale, and it's about the future of American innovation. I mean, these agencies, they fund vital research. They train future generations of scientists. And they play a crucial role in addressing those big global challenges.
And yet here we are, actively undermining our own progress. Like one user, Unsane Korjapos, shared a story about American scientists who are struggling to find jobs in Europe now because of the uncertainty created by these political decisions. It's heartbreaking to see talented people forced to abandon their careers, leave their homes.
Yeah, the human cost is often overlooked in these kinds of discussions, right? But these are real people, and their lives and livelihoods are being disrupted by what seems like, I don't know, short-sighted political maneuvering.
Bleak picture,
Yeah.
for sure. But hey, let's try to end on a slightly more optimistic note, shall we? I mean, amidst all this chaos, there's still some pretty cool stuff happening in the world of robotics.
It does seem like every week there's a new development that kind of pushes the boundaries of what's possible.
Right. I saw this video of 1X's Neo Gamma robot putting away groceries. And I have to say, it was strangely mesmerizing to watch it, like carefully pick up each item and put it in like the right spot. I mean, sign me up. I can think of a million things I'd rather do than unload the dishwasher.
Yeah. It is really fascinating to see how far robotics has come. I mean, while we're still a long way from, Rosie the robot from the Jetsons, the potential for robots to handle those tedious household tasks, I think, is becoming more and more realistic.
But of course, with any new technology, we got those pesky ethical concerns, right? Fabrication Life raised a good point in the comments. They were asking, what happens to all the people whose jobs are replaced by these robots? I mean, we don't want to end up in a world where robots are like chilling by the pool while we're all fighting over like scraps of food, right?
It's a valid concern, and it's definitely one that we need to address proactively. I mean, as with any major technological shift, there will likely be some job displacement, but it's also likely that it'll create new opportunities, in fields related to robotics development, maintenance, integration. The key is to anticipate these changes and ensure that we manage this transition effectively.
Right, because nobody wants a robot uprising.
Right.
Speaking of which, have you seen that video of the chained robot dog? Talk about like nightmare fuel. It was just strolling along, mind its own business, and then bam, it gets yanked back by the chain. It's enough to make you question humanity's like grip on reality.
That video certainly sparked a lot of debate online, and for good reason, right? I mean, it raises questions about how we perceive robots and treat robots, especially as they become more, lifelike and capable of interacting with us in more complex ways.
A Human Seeing had a great comment about this. They were saying, we need to be careful about anthropomorphizing robots, even when they're clearly not sentient. It's so easy to project human emotions onto these machines. But at the end of the day, we have to remember they are tools. And how we use them is a reflection of our own values and choices.
Exactly. I mean, we're the ones programming their behavior, so it's our responsibility to make sure those behaviors align with, our ethical principles. But speaking of questionable choices, let's dive into the world of Elon Musk, shall we?
Oh boy, here we go. I feel like we need to get our Elon bingo cards out for this one. Let's see. Firing essential government workers. Check. Trash talking his own companies. Check. Trying to dismantle the government agencies investigating him. Check and check.
It's been, his behavior lately has been, shall we say, erratic. Seems like he's on a mission to alienate everyone, burn all the bridges. But I think what's fascinating is trying to understand, what are his motivations here? Is he just a brilliant but, eccentric tech visionary, or is there something more calculated at play?
Yeah, it's hard to tell what's genuine and what's performance art with this guy. But one thing's for sure. His actions, they have real-world consequences. As Nuggins 355 pointed out, that there are a lot of veterans, who rely on those government jobs, who are facing unemployment now because of Musk's decisions.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that even the most powerful people in tech are still accountable for their actions.
Absolutely. I mean, we can't just dismiss these actions as, the whims of a billionaire. These decisions impact real lives,
And we need to hold those in power accountable. Well said. And speaking of things that make you go, Let's jump into our bonus round for today, where things are about to get mind-bogglingly complex.
Yeah.
A Chinese company has unveiled a path to building a million-qubit quantum computer.
Okay. Now that's a headline that deserves a double take.
A million qubits. I mean, can you even wrap your head around that?
It's a development that has the potential to revolutionize entire industries, from, drug discovery to material science to artificial intelligence. Quantum computing harnesses the principles of quantum mechanics to perform calculations at speeds that are just, unimaginable with classical computers.
Yeah. Indigo at NoCap summed it up perfectly in the comments. Weeks where decades happen. This could accelerate technological advancement at an unprecedented pace. But it also raises some pretty profound questions.
Indeed. I mean, this level of computing power, it could unlock incredible possibilities, but it also comes with, inherent risks. What happens to encryption and cybersecurity in a world with million-qubit quantum computers? How do we ensure that this technology is used ethically, responsibly? I think these are all questions we need to grapple with as we enter this new era of computing.
It's both exciting and a little terrifying, right? It's like we're standing on the precipice of a whole new world, and we have no idea what's waiting for us on the other side. But that's what makes it all so fascinating, I guess. So buckle up, everyone. Things are about to get very, very interesting.
Very interesting indeed. It is a brave new world out there, that's for sure. And while we're contemplating the mind-bending possibilities of quantum computing, let's not forget about those very real threats lurking in the natural world. News broke this week about chronic wasting disease spreading among deer and elk populations. And some experts are worried about the potential for this to jump to humans.
Yeah, that's some serious nightmare fuel right there.
Yeah.
I mean, we've all seen those zombie movies, right? Prion diseases like chronic wasting disease, mad cow disease, they're notoriously difficult to treat. And the potential impact on human health could be devastating.
It's a reminder that nature is full of surprises. And not all of them are pleasant. While there's no evidence yet that it can be transmitted to humans, the possibility is being closely monitored. The stakes are high. And the scientific community is taking this threat very seriously.
Speaking of high stakes and serious threats, let's shift gears, no pun intended, to another topic that's been generating a lot of buzz this week.
Yeah.
The impact of those stricter abortion laws on maternal mortality rates. News is reporting that in states where access to safe and legal abortion is restricted, maternal mortality rates are soaring. And it's just a chilling reminder that political decisions have real-world consequences. And in this case, those consequences are literally life or death.
Yeah. This is a complex issue, multiple contributing factors, but the data clearly shows a correlation between those stricter abortion laws and higher maternal mortality rates. When women are denied access to safe and legal abortion, they're often forced to seek out unsafe alternatives, which puts their lives at risk.
It's infuriating.
Yeah.
And heartbreaking. It's like one user commented, all anti-abortion laws do is stop safe abortions. It's not about saving lives. It's about controlling women's bodies, denying them access to essential health care.
It's a stark reminder that reproductive health care is essential health care, and restricting access to it has dire consequences for women's health and well-being.
Okay, I need a moment to process all of that before we move on. This week's news cycle has been like a real emotional roller coaster.
Take your time. It's important to acknowledge the weight of these issues and not shy away from those difficult conversations.
Deep breaths, everyone. Deep breaths. Okay, let's talk about something that is guaranteed to induce existential dread. Climate change. A new study has confirmed that Earth's ice caps are melting at an alarming rate. We are on track for a future without them. I mean, is anyone else feeling a little hot under the collar about this?
It's a sobering reality that we can no longer afford to ignore. The evidence is overwhelming, and the consequences are becoming increasingly evident. Melting ice caps are going to lead to rising sea levels, more extreme weather events, mass displacement of human populations. It's a global crisis that demands immediate action.
It's like we're on this runaway train headed for a climate catastrophe, and instead of hitting the brakes, some folks are just arguing about, what kind of snacks to eat on the way down. I mean, have you seen the news about these tech billionaires buying up land in New Zealand? Prepping for the apocalypse. It's like a real-life Hunger Games, where the ultra-rich are going to escape to their luxury bunkers, and the rest of us are left fighting over scraps.
Yeah. It's a dystopian scenario that highlights that growing gap between the ultra-wealthy and everyone else. The idea that they're preparing for this climate apocalypse, while contributing to the very problem that's causing it, is deeply unsettling.
Yeah, it's hard to feel optimistic when you see that kind of blatant self-interest, right? That kind of disregard for the rest of humanity. But hey, let's try to find a silver lining here, shall we? Maybe those billionaires will at least, stock their bunkers with some healthy snacks. Speaking of healthy snacks, let's talk about walnuts. Apparently, eating walnuts can make you seem more intelligent. So if you're looking for a quick IQ boost, just grab a handful of those, like brainy nuts.
Well, while I appreciate the enthusiasm for brain-boosting snacks, it's important to note that this study is based on perceived intelligence, not actual cognitive enhancement. So it's more about, first impressions rather than actual brain power.
Fair enough, but hey, perception is reality, right? I'll take any advantage I can get. Besides, walnuts are delicious, so win-win either way. But speaking of perceptions, let's talk about this study suggesting that women prioritize attractiveness over intelligence when choosing a partner. I mean, is anyone really surprised by this?
Well, the study does suggest a preference for attractiveness in those early stages of dating, but it's important to remember that human attraction is a complex process. It's influenced by a wide range of factors, intelligence, humor, kindness, shared values. These all play a role in building those lasting relationships.
Right, because in the long run, it's about more than just, superficial
Oh,
looks.
yeah.
But hey, a little attractiveness doesn't hurt, right? Speaking of things that might hurt, let's talk about scented candles and air fresheners.
Mm.
Apparently, those delightful aromas might actually be harming our health. Talk about a buzzkill.
Yeah, while scented candles and air fresheners can create that pleasant ambiance, make your home smell nice, it's important to be aware of the potential risks that are associated with prolonged exposure to certain chemicals that are commonly found in those products. Some studies have linked these chemicals to respiratory problems, allergies, and even hormonal disruptions.
It's a good reminder that even seemingly harmless, everyday products can have those hidden downsides, right? We need to be mindful of the chemicals we're exposing ourselves to and make informed choices about the products we use in our homes. Speaking of hidden downsides, let's talk about acetaminophen, also known as paracetamol or Tylenol. A new study suggests that acetaminophen use during pregnancy could be linked to ADHD and autism in children. Now that's some scary stuff, especially for expectant parents.
It is important to approach this study with some caution as it shows a correlation, not necessarily causation. So more research is needed to determine if there's a definitive link between acetaminophen use during pregnancy and those neurodevelopmental disorders in children. However, the findings do raise some concerns, and pregnant women should consult with their doctors before using any medication, including over-the-counter pain relievers.
Yeah, it's always best to err on the side of caution, especially when it comes to pregnancy. Okay, let's shift gears, dive into the world of cybersecurity. Because apparently, there's this new ransomware group called Ghost that's wreaking havoc globally. And get this, these hackers are using publicly available code to exploit known vulnerabilities. It's like they're playing a game of digital whack-a-mole, and we're the moles.
Yeah, it highlights the importance of those proactive cybersecurity measures. Organizations really need to prioritize patching those known vulnerabilities, implementing robust security protocols, and training their employees to recognize and avoid phishing scams. It's not just about protecting data anymore, it's about safeguarding critical infrastructure and national security.
Yeah, because in today's interconnected world, a cyber attack can have real-world consequences, right? It can disrupt everything from power grids to financial systems to hospitals, like one user put it. We need to back up today because the attacks are already ongoing.
Exactly. It's not a matter of if, but when a cyber attack will occur. We need to be prepared and vigilant.
Speaking of being prepared, let's talk about space. Because it seems like everyone's trying to get off this planet these days, maybe for good reason. A NASA rover has discovered evidence of liquid water on Mars, sparking excitement about the potential for, past or even present life on the red planet. I mean, who doesn't love a good alien story?
The discovery of liquid water on Mars is a significant milestone in our exploration of the solar system. It raises those intriguing questions about the possibility of life beyond Earth, right? It fuels that desire to unlock those secrets of the universe. And it's a reminder that there's so much out there that we still don't know, and the possibilities are endless.
It's like one user commented, "What a time to be alive." We're witnessing these groundbreaking scientific discoveries, exploring the vastness of space, pushing the boundaries of human knowledge. It's enough to make you forget about all the doom and gloom for a moment.
Right. It's a reminder that even amidst the challenges and uncertainties, there's still so much wonder and beauty in the world. So much to learn and discover.
Okay, before we get too philosophical here, let's bring things back down to earth. because apparently there's a new study suggesting that watching too much news can be bad for your mental health. I
Yeah.
mean, is anyone really surprised by this? With all the negativity and sensationalism out there, it's no wonder people are feeling anxious and overwhelmed.
Yeah. That constant barrage of negative news can certainly take a toll on mental well-being, lead to anxiety, depression, sense of hopelessness. It's important to find a balance, staying informed without becoming overwhelmed by that negativity.
Right. Because ignorance may be bliss, but it's not exactly a recipe for a well-informed citizenry. Speaking of a well-informed citizenry, let's talk about social media, because it seems like everyone's glued to their phones these days, right?
Yeah.
Scrolling through those endless feeds of information and misinformation. A new study has uncovered this vast graveyard of unwatched videos on YouTube, highlighting the sheer volume of content that's being produced and the challenge of just like cutting through all the noise.
It's a reflection of the digital age we live in. We're constantly bombarded with information, and it can be so difficult to discern what's valuable, what's entertaining, what's just noise. It's a challenge for content creators to stand out. It's a challenge for consumers to filter that information overload.
Yeah. It's like trying to find a needle in a haystack, or maybe like a decent video in an ocean of cat videos. Speaking of things that are hard to find, let's talk about the U.S. Digital Service, the government agency that's responsible for, modernizing digital services.
Yeah.
But it seems like it's being systematically dismantled under the current administration. It's like they're trying to drag us back to the Stone Age, one clunky website at a time.
The U.S. Digital Service has played a crucial role in improving the accessibility and functionality of government websites and those digital services. The decision to dismantle it is a step backwards, potentially undermining efforts to modernize government operations and make them more citizen-centric.
And let's not forget that human cost, right? One user, who claimed to work at the U.S. Digital Service, commented, "It's the greatest privilege of my life to be able to do this work with this team of amazing people. Unfortunately, DOGE chose to fire 1/3 of them last week. These cuts were short-sighted, ill-informed, and indiscriminate. The government and the American people will be worse off from the loss of these people." It's a shame to see talented and dedicated public servants lose their jobs due to these political decisions that just seem driven by, ideology rather than practicality.
The long-term consequences of these actions could be significant, not just for the agency itself, but also for the citizens who rely on those services they provide.
It's a reminder that those government agencies and the services they provide play a vital role in our lives. When they're weakened or destroyed, we all suffer the consequences. Speaking of suffering the consequences, let's talk about HP, because apparently they're making it harder to reach a human for customer support. I mean, is anyone really surprised by this? It seems like every company out there is prioritizing automation and cost-cutting over customer service, right? Leaving customers feeling frustrated, unheard.
It's a frustrating trend, becoming all too common, it seems. Companies, they seem to be forgetting that customers are the lifeblood of their business, and treating them like an inconvenience is not a sustainable strategy.
It's like they're deliberately trying to make us, pull our hair out. Speaking of things that make us pull our hair out, let's talk about Elon Musk again. Because apparently he's now trash-talking his own company, GameStop. I mean, what's the deal with that? Is he trying to, tank his own investments?
Well, Elon Musk is known for his unconventional and often unpredictable behavior. His comments about GameStop, while puzzling, may be part of, a larger strategy to manipulate markets or generate publicity. It's hard to say for sure what his motivations are, but one thing's for sure, he's never boring.
Yeah, he's a bit of an enigma, that's for sure. But hey, he's not boring, right? Speaking of things that are far from boring, let's talk about fusion power. Because France has just broken a record, running a fusion reactor for a whopping 22 minutes. It's like a tiny sun on Earth.
This is a significant achievement in the quest for clean, sustainable energy. Fusion power has the potential to revolutionize how we power our world, providing a near-limitless source of energy without producing greenhouse gases or long-lived radioactive waste.
It's like one user commented, the world is getting there. It's the glimmer of hope in a world facing those multiple crises.
It's a reminder that human ingenuity and scientific progress can offer solutions to even the most complex challenges.
Okay, before we get too carried away, let's just, acknowledge the reality of the situation here. Fusion power is still in its early stages of development, and there are significant technical and engineering hurdles to overcome before it becomes like a viable commercial energy source. But hey, it's good to have something to look forward to.
Right. Absolutely. It's important to celebrate these milestones and recognize the dedication and brilliance of all those scientists and engineers working tirelessly to make fusion power a reality.
Well said. Okay, let's wrap up this segment with, like, a dose of reality, because apparently there's a new study suggesting that people are becoming less interested in news, in current events. I mean, is anyone really surprised by this?
Hmm.
With all the negativity and information overload out there, it's understandable that some people are choosing to, like, tune out and focus on other things.
Yeah. The constant negativity and sensationalism in the news can be, exhausting, disheartening. It's understandable that some people are choosing to tune out, focus on other things.
Yeah, it's like one user commented, "I've just stopped absorbing news for the most part. It's futile and depressing."
It is a concerning trend, though. An informed citizenry, it's essential for a functioning democracy. So I think we need to find ways to engage people in current events without overwhelming them with that negativity.
It's a challenge, for sure. But hey, maybe we can find a way to make news, like, more entertaining.
Right.
I mean, who doesn't love a good story?
Speaking of stories, let's talk about the one everyone's talking about, the potential peace deal between Ukraine and Russia. It seems like a certain former president is trying to broker a deal, but the terms are like raising eyebrows. I mean, is this realpolitik or just bad joke?
The situation in Ukraine is complex, fraught with geopolitical tensions. Any potential peace deal is going to require, careful negotiation, commitment to finding a solution that addresses the concerns of all the parties involved. Yeah, it's a delicate balancing act, that's for sure. But hey, at least someone's trying, right? Speaking of trying, let's talk about Starlink, because apparently Elon Musk is threatening to cut off Ukraine's access to the satellite internet service. I mean, is he serious?
Elon Musk's comments about Starlink have sparked controversy and raised concerns about the potential impact on Ukraine's communication infrastructure. It's a reminder of the power that these tech billionaires wield and the need for, greater accountability.
It's like one user put it, they do not care. They are the kind of people that murder other people over profit and power. It's a chilling reminder that greed and ambition can have those devastating consequences.
It's a sobering thought. We need to be aware of the potential for abuse of power, especially when it comes to those who control those essential technologies and resources.
Okay, let's take a break from all these heavy topics and come back for the final part of our deep dive. We'll explore more of this week's biggest stories, from the absurd to the inspiring, and try to make sense of it all. Stay tuned. All right, welcome back, everyone. Hope you're ready for round 3 of our deep dive into this week's craziest science and tech news. Last we left off, we were talking about Elon Musk and his, let's just say, interesting comments about Starlink in Ukraine. It really makes you think about the power these tech giants have and the ethical dilemmas that come with that, right?
It's a tough one for sure. You've got a private company providing this critical service in a war zone, but then you've also got to worry about that same service being used as leverage or even, as a weapon. It raises a lot of questions about how much responsibility these companies should have and how involved they should be in global conflict.
And, well, it's not like this is Elon's first questionable decision. I mean, remember when he, and I'm not making this up, tried to rename the U.S. digital service the U.S. DOGE service? Like, seriously, is he running a tech empire or a meme page?
Yeah, his leadership style, it's definitely unique. Some people call it disruptive, shaking things up. But others say it's reckless. Could even hurt important government work. It's a lot to unpack.
And it's not just about his personality or those crazy tweets. These decisions have real-world consequences. One commenter, said to be a former U.S. digital service employee, really put it out there. They said, "I wish these people would just do their jobs like they're supposed to and tell the president and Musk to go, well, screw themselves, instead of quitting and letting the replacements be even worse." It's a tough situation to be in, that's for sure.
Yeah, it really shows how intertwined tech, politics, and government have become. And the implications for democracy, for accountability, well, they're definitely worth talking about.
Speaking of things that make you want to scream into the void, let's talk about RFK Jr.'s new government job. The guy's now in charge of a huge chunk of the federal budget, including things like vaccine approvals and health insurance. And considering his, shall we say, unique views on vaccines, well, people are freaking out, and I get it.
Yeah, there's been a lot of controversy around this appointment. Some people support him, saying he's standing up to big pharma and fighting for health freedom. But a lot of people, including a lot of scientists and doctors, are really worried about what his views could mean for public health.
Yeah, the comment section on this one was a war zone. One user summed it up pretty well. They said, "Every day since 2016, I've wondered how Trump could possibly have any supporters. I thought the Republicans were, not the brightest, but I guess I underestimated them.
Yeah, the political climate's definitely heated, and this appointment just threw gasoline on the fire. It'll be interesting to see what happens.
Interesting. Maybe.
Yeah.
Terrifying. Also possible. Okay, let's take a break from politics for a minute and get back to science. Because believe it or not, and there was some good news this week.
Oh, there's always something exciting happening in the world of science. What caught your eye?
There was this study about sugar. How bad it is for us. Well, this study suggests that it might actually be addictive, like literally addictive, in the same way as cocaine or heroin.
That is a concerning finding, especially when you think about how much sugar is in everything we eat these days. The study showed that sugar can activate the same reward centers in the brain as drugs, leading to cravings, withdrawal symptoms, and just like uncontrollable overeating.
In the comments, it was a whole mix of, well, duh, and, but I love my candy. One comment really stood out to me, though. They said, why bother teaching people self-control? Just make the food worse. And you know what? They've got a point. Our whole food system is designed to push sugar on us, and then we blame people for not having enough willpower.
It's a systemic problem, for sure. We have to look at the root causes, the marketing, the government subsidies for the sugar industry, the fact that healthy food is so expensive for so many people. It's bigger than individual choices.
Totally. We need a healthier system for everyone.
Okay.
But let's switch gears a bit. Robot dogs. What have you heard about those lately?
Ah, yes, the robot best friends of the future. What's going on in the world of robopups?
There's this new type of robot dog that's, well, kind of freaking people out. It looks and moves so realistically. It can walk, run, jump, even fetch. But there's this video that went viral. It shows the robot dog chained up, just pacing around in a tiny space. And people are losing their minds about the ethics of it all, treating robots like animals.
Yeah, I saw that. It definitely hit a nerve. It makes you think about our anxieties about technology. Some people were horrified, like it was animal cruelty. Others were like, chill out, it's just a machine.
The comments were a total mess. But one user, You Human Seeing, said something really smart. They said, we can't just project human feelings onto robots, even if they seem lifelike. What's the message here? That AI is dangerous and needs to be controlled.
It's a good question. How do we treat these increasingly sophisticated robots? Are they slaves? Pets? Can we find a way to live with them ethically? We need to figure this out before it's too late.
Deep stuff. Okay, I think it's time for our final segment. And what better way to end The Algorithm Speaks than with a good dose of existential dread?
You know us too well. What do we have to worry about this time? Killer robots. Alien invasions.
It's an asteroid.
Yeah.
A giant asteroid heading straight for Earth. I know, you've heard it all before, but this time it's real. No, I'm just kidding. Mostly.
Well, asteroid impacts are a real threat. Scientists are always watching for them. But the chances of a really catastrophic one, they're pretty low.
Okay, that's a little comforting. But hey, if we do get wiped out by a space rock, at least it'll be a spectacular way to go.
There's that. But seriously, it reminds us that we live on a pretty fragile planet in a vast and unpredictable universe.
A good reason to appreciate what we have, right? To make the most of our time, and maybe buy a really, really good telescope. And with that happy thought, I think it's time to wrap up this week's Deep Dive.
We covered a lot this week, as always. From amazing scientific breakthroughs to political nightmares to, well, the potential end of the world.
It's what we do best. The world of science and tech is always changing. It's always challenging us to think differently, to question everything, and to imagine what the future holds.
And it reminds us that even when things seem really bleak, there's always hope. There's always ingenuity. There's always the possibility that things can get better.
That's a great way to put it. So until next time, everyone, stay curious, stay informed, and try not to get eaten by a robot dog. We'll see you next week for another Deep Dive.